They're pretty pessimistic in Washington about whether health care reform will be dealt with in a final way before the August recess coming up at the end of this week. New Mexico's senior U.S. Senator sits on two key committees involved with drafting health care legislation. One is Health and Education Committee, which has already passed along its recommendations. The other, the Finance Committee. I asked Senator Jeff Bingaman where things stand now in the Finance Committee.
Well, things are still in a stage where we're trying to see if a bill could be developed that would gain bipartisan support in that we could report it out of the committee on a bipartisan basis. That's what Senator Baucus, who's the chairman of the committee, has been trying to do. And I think his purpose, which he's explained many times, is that we're going to have 60 votes on the Senate floor in order to proceed to a bill in this area, and in order to pass a bill in this area, and having some bipartisan support for that legislation as we begin the debate on the Senate floor would be a big help.
Now, we've been reading that you are among a group of 6 senators on the Finance Committee who've been meeting behind closed doors to try to work out something that may fly before the entire committee. Such small meetings, is that usual for a Senate committee?
Well, it's not usual, and the process is to develop a proposal to then put before the full committee. And at that time, of course, all members of the full committee were having meetings with other members of the committee as we have these smaller meetings as well. But once a proposal is put before the full committee, then there would be an opportunity for all members to offer amendments, state objections, offer alternatives, whatever action the full committee wanted to take. But the hoped for end result would be a bill that would have some bipartisan support coming out of the committee.
So there have been other small groups meeting independently from your group?
Yes, I think some of the Republican members in the small group of 6 have been meeting with Republican senators. I and Senator Baucus and Senator Conrad have met with the Democratic senators on the committee repeatedly, and that will continue, those kinds of meetings. And we have also discussions with the larger members of the Senate. We have a full briefing for all Democratic members of the Senate on both the bill that came out of the Health and Education Committee and the state of discussions in the Finance Committee. That'll be this Wednesday.
The question I raise now is a state issue in New Mexico at the moment, but it's not unique to New Mexico and could come up increasingly and bear on the widespread use of solar and wind-powered electricity generation. And the question is this: should a small company that is being set up to serve one client, as is the case with the city of Santa Fe, should it be exempt from the same rules that govern a giant utility like PNM when it comes to being regulated under state regulatory rules? There's a group of lawmakers in New Mexico arguing that would place an unfair burden on this company and would thwart the widespread growth of solar power. Any thoughts on that, and whether, if it becomes rampant enough, widespread enough throughout the country, whether this sort of question might be answered federally?
Well, I think historically we've always allowed the rate regulation to be done at the state level, and so what a utility charges for electric power generated from whatever source is a state decision. The Public Regulation Commission in our state makes that decision, and a similar body does in each state around the country. I do think that there are differences in the rules they apply depending upon the size of the utility, and the requirement for utilities to produce a certain percentage of their power from renewable sources generally that requirement applies to larger utilities and not small companies. So I don't know if that's exactly responsive to your question, but there are different regulations depending upon the size of the utility involved.
Well, this utility company would be solar powered. Its single client would be the city of Santa Fe in this particular instance, but it would not be efficient, I understand, if it had to pay the same fees and under the regulatory framework that guides a large utility.
Well, as I say, I think the Public Regulation Commission certainly can make accommodation for that and can put in place a different set of requirements depending upon the nature and the function and the size of the utility that they're dealing with.
Senator Jeff Bingaman on the line from Washington a short time earlier.